Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Lance Medow, right here in the Hackensack Brilliant Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. We are officially 1 week away, Lance, from the start of the 2025 NFL season. I am pumped. I am psyched. We have Eagles and Cowboys in a week.
Yeah.
An NFC East game, which Giant fans should be very interested in. And then 3 days later, you get Giants and Commanders now, just 10 days from today, opening the year 1 o'clock down in D.C. We're ultimately seeing now what all these rosters are going to look like. Practice squads around the league should be filled out by the end of the day. And we know what these teams are going to look like for the most part. The Cowboys still have some questions about Micah Parsons, which we don't have any new information as of today. We'll track that for you, obviously. But we're in it now, man. We are in the home stretch of the summer, and we are ready for some football.
Yeah, let the countdown begin. The latest, just to stay on top of with Mike, is he was going to get a second opinion on his back injury.
Which I would say is a very bad sign that that's going to be resolved.
Yeah, not necessarily good that this is also coming to light and fruition about a week out, because they play early, as you mentioned, against the Eagles. So they're already in game planning motion, as opposed to the Giants and the Commanders, who have a little bit more wiggle room, as they're not going to have their first game until a week from this Sunday. So they can enjoy the Labor Day weekend festivities just a tad, whereas the Cowboys and the Eagles are already delving into what's going to come about in that matchup. Yeah, not a good situation all around, but as we've seen with the Terry McLaurin and the Trey Hendrickson, and I know it's different, John.
It seems personal,
and tend to end when all of a sudden the deadline is knocking on the door. So
True.
I don't know how much I truly would read into it. And here's the other thing, and we're going to get into obviously all Giants-related stuff and season preview, but Jerry Jones has been on the record multiple times saying he loves to steal the headlines.
True.
He loves the drama. And I think when you take that, and I would put a lot of grains of salt in what he says, because he has a track record of living up to the headlines, that sometimes, even though it appears as if things are messy, it's almost as if he knows what he's doing in stirring the pot.
Well, he's going to have to pick up the phone and actually call Micah Parsons' agent, which apparently has not happened since like March. Make that happen.
The old story is, why use the middlemen when you can go straight? The problem is the CBA says you have to use the middlemen under these circumstances.
And the player is telling him that you have to use my agent. So
yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I think the ugliest situation could be that Parsons gets another doctor to say that he does have a real back injury, so he's injured and he can't play. But the Cowboys going to be like, no, you're medically cleared. We're now fining you game checks. And then that could be arbitration,
the union.
Yeah. And then that could get very ugly very quickly if they can't figure things out. So we'll see what happens. But more important with the Giants this week. Did not mean to get off on that little side tangent there. The Giants just named their captains, Lance. So it was basically a vote. The top 5 vote getters became captains. And I don't think any names on this list should be surprising to anyone. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Bobby Okereke, and this is in no particular order, Russell Wilson, and Darius Slayton, 5 of the most veteran players on the team. I'm surprised an offensive lineman didn't get in there, but I guess there's no obvious person since Andrew Thomas is hurt. But none of these names are surprising to me. We've heard about what a great leader Russ has been. Dex has been a captain before. Brian Burns has turned up the leadership. Bobby Okereke has been a captain. Yep. Darius Slayton's the veteran in the wide receiver room. All-around good dude. So he's been here the longest tenured Giant. So none of these names are surprising to me.
But to your point, Andrew Thomas was a captain last season. So whether he's healthy or not, I still think would give him the opportunity and the sales pitch to remain as a captain. So I was a little bit surprised, because I just brought up the 2024 captains, and there were also 5, so the number hasn't changed. There was a little bit more versatility in terms of them having a special teams representative as well. But no, all of those names, you're talking about established veterans on the team. Daniel Jones was a captain last season. Only natural that Russell Wilson takes the baton, and Okereke and Dex are captains that will now have that role for the second straight year. You mentioned Brian Burns showing himself both on and off the field. So I think all of the players that were voted, it's natural to think that process would play out because I think they've either been vocal publicly or they've been vocal clearly within the locker room. So it's pretty much business as usual as far as I'm concerned in terms of how the vote played out.
Two other roster moves for the Giants yesterday, and then we're going to do our wins draft here, and then we're basically each drafting 8 teams. We'll see which one of us comes up with more wins at the end of the season, and then we can have some bragging rights and we can have some fun with that. Bo Braid and Rico Payton were 2 players the Giants claimed on waivers yesterday. Bo Braid, a safety out of Maryland. Rico Payton, a cornerback out of Pittsburgh State, which I believe is in Kansas, which is interesting. 2 players the Giants needed depth at safety. They only kept 3, so that was not a surprise. I kind of wrote about that I thought it was likely they'd bring in a safety. And then Rico Payton, in their corresponding moves, they let go of Gunnar Olszewski. Remember, he is a veteran, so he does not have to go on waivers. He is able to, come back to the Giants if he likes. And then rookie cornerback Corey Black also got waived. He does have to go through the waiver process.
He was a 7th-round pick.
And we'll see if anyone claims in the 7th-round pick this year. Based on the way Joe Shane talked about these 2 guys, it sounds like they're more special teams contributors than they are guys that are going to be seriously in the mix in the defensive back rotation on defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the numbers, John. I think this spells out what they played last season. Bo Braid, 70% of special team snaps with the Ravens, only 11 defensive snaps. You do the math, that's just 2%. By the way, you brought up he's from Maryland. He was teammates with Deontay Banks at Maryland, so there's a Giants connection there. And Rico Payton, the cornerback, 57% he played of special team snaps with the Saints, only 21 defensive snaps, also 2%. Now, they like the upside of both of these players since they're still young. We're talking about a pair of 2024 undrafted players that they can contribute as secondary opportunities present themselves. But for the most part, as you mentioned, they're going to initially, and especially when you're on the back end of the roster, they're going to have to contribute on special teams. So I think the goal was twofold. Number one, it was to bring in youthful upside. And number 2, it was to help bolster and solidify the special teams units. And plural is the key operating phrase. Because the bottom line is, in an ideal world, you're hoping that the corners and the safeties that you invested a lot of time in are going to get the bulk of the snaps. In a pinch, you could certainly throw them in. Remember, they got to learn the scheme first, too, so that may take some time. But they have special teams written all over them.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to bring up before we get to our wins draft here?
No, I mean, the only other thing that I was going to bring up, and you on previous shows, I wasn't necessarily surprised with any of the developments that happened on the 53-man roster.
No,
I would say overall.
There were like 3 or 4 guys at the bottom end of the roster where I was kind of like, maybe not. And those are all the guys that ended up having questions. There wasn't anyone that I had like as player 40 that ended up getting like, oh, I'm with you.
Well, and the 2 guys that I thought were like bubble borderline wound up coming back to the practice squad in Elijah Chapman and Turbo. So they're going to still stay in the fold, and they'll be able to contribute.
Same with Amir Smith-Marset, by the way, and Trace Ford. Those are 2 of the other guys that were kind of on the bubble for me.
Well, and interestingly, you brought up Amir. He doesn't make the cut, but was brought back on the practice squad, and now Gunnar Olszewski was let go. So, I mean, clearly there's a chance for Gunnar to come back, and he made a very big impression on the team for a small period of time in which he returned, because right now I think the looming question mark, while we're on the subject, John, is the return game, and who would assume that role as it stands right now.
My guess is that someone will be elevated off the practice squad in week 1.
Yes, I think if you connect the dots, I think that is a fair assumption, because the 2 guys that were the main people that contributed in that department were let go in some capacity. So you put 2 and 2 together, I think that'll be the direction that they go in. And Tommy DeVito was obviously the other storyline, but it pretty much, John, played out the way that we anticipated. I mean, I thought maybe there'd be an outside chance he passes through waivers, but think about it. The Patriots played the Giants, okay, in the preseason. So if anybody had an up-close and personal look at DeVito in comparison to what they were working with themselves, it was New England. So, I mean, of all the teams, I would say it was logical for New England, given the youth on that roster. I know they have Dobbs, but it would make sense for them to bring in an experienced guy like DeVito.
And Ryan Cowden is there, who worked with the Giants the last couple years. Now, I believe he's the assistant general manager, if I'm not mistaken, right, with New England. I'm not sure what his title is, but he's basically Elliot Wolf's
he's one of those
2.
front office roles.
He's Elliot Wolf's number 2, I think.
Yeah.
And he's very familiar with Tommy DeVito, and The Patriots, their third quarterback, did not perform well against the Giants in the third preseason game, so I think that made a lot of sense. And I have not seen any other word online. I don't know if it's been released officially, but I haven't seen any other word that he had been claimed by anybody else, DeVito. I don't think the NFL releases that information.
They don't. Joe Shane mentioned the teams probably will get a look at it because they were interested in whether or not another team.
Yeah, I have not seen any indications that another team claimed him, but we'll see. Happy for Tommy that he's on a 53. Would have loved to have him back on the practice squad if they could have worked that out. I love him. He's a good dude. I think he's a good player. But I'm very happy he'll have a chance to be on a 53-man roster. Heck, maybe he can compete. Maybe he can wind up being the primary backup in New England. Who knows?
I agree with you. I think from his individual standpoint, it's not only great for him that he made a 53-man roster, but if I'm a quarterback, I'm a backup, John, I'm looking at pathway.
Correct.
And Drake May is their guy. But Drake May, he gets hurt. He's a young guy. Dobbs is your only main competitor. It's not crazy to think as DeVito learns the system. And here's the other thing that I think is promising for him. He's getting the chance to work with Josh McDaniels, who has an excellent track record molding and developing quarterbacks. And that's also good for him.
And the system should not be that different. A lot of Dable's roots come from that Patriot system, where Josh McDaniels was for a long time. So hopefully that'll be an easy transition for him, and he can have a lot of success there. We're happy for him. All right, Pearson, you ready to write down the teams here? All right, first, Pearson has to flip a coin to see who's picking first here between Lance and I. So this is a wins draft. I've done this with Tino the last couple of years. I've beat him very easily, so I didn't want to have to put him through that again. He actually beat me 2 years ago, but I got him good last year.
Don't let facts ruin a good story.
No, absolutely not. So we're each picking 7 teams, because there are 7 playoff teams in each division. So we're picking 7 teams, and then we have to pick 1 team each that finished with 5 wins or fewer last year. These can be picked in any order. So, Pearson, are you ready to flip a coin, my friend?
Yes. Who wants to call it?
Lance, you can call it.
You want me to call it?
Yeah,
okay.
you call it.
Well, the question is, do I go heads or tails?
Yes, those would be your 2 options.
Yes, I know. Well, I wanted to make it clear for anybody who was still debating. I'll go tails prevails.
It never fails.
Yes.
What do you got?
It landed on its side.
What?
It's heads.
It's heads. All right, so I get to pick first.
He did the digital coin, by the way. Well, because, good luck trying to find, natural coins in this day and age.
Correct. Okay. I think that I'm not going to pick the obvious team here. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I don't think the AFC East is a very strong division. The AFC West scares me a little bit because I think all 4 teams in that division are going to be good this year. So I'm going to go with the Bills here with Josh Allen. The Dolphins scare me a little bit this year. I don't know what they're going to look like. There seems to be some stuff going on there. The Jets and the Patriots, I think, are still in the middle of rebuilds. Their schedule is not that difficult, Buffalo, when you look at who they're playing outside of their division. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills with my first choice.
So you did not select the Kansas City Chiefs.
I did not.
Which means you left me a very, very attractive option, and I'm with you. I think the AFC West is a division to fear because the depth is probably at an all-time high, John, compared to where we've seen it in a few years. And the team that I think could make the biggest jump, just to give a little preview, not to say I'm picking them, the Raiders, with Pete Carroll's presence, okay?
They might be on my list,
Geno
too.
Smith and Genty. So, that's a team to watch. I don't know if they're playoff bound, but I think they're going to be a thorn in the side of the division foes and the rest of the NFL. And we know what Bo Nix and the Broncos did with Sean Payton. And the Chargers, I will pat myself on the back. That was my team to bounce back with Jim Harbaugh's arrival, and they lived up to expectations. But every year we go through, do you bet against Kansas City? Is this going to be the year they fall off a cliff? Is this going to be the year that they forget their identity?
Well, it's not even a cliff. That might just be a little like slide down the slope a little bit. It's like you're sledding with your kids and you kind of just go down the slope a little bit.
Okay. Well, I added for dramatic effect.
Yes.
So thank you so much for playing along from that standpoint. But the point I'm getting at is when Tyreek Hill was traded, we went through this.
We did.
And Rashee Rice is now suspended for the first 6 games. And they made some transactions. Kansas City has too good of a track record, John, for me to give up now. Yeah, so I will have the Chiefs as my first selection.
They were the second team on my list, and I went back and forth between the Bills and the Chiefs.
No, and I understand that.
And I could not decide. All right, so pick number 3 here. I'm going to stick in the AFC, and I'm going to go with the other mega quarterback. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. I just think they have been so consistent, Lance. What team has been more consistent than the Baltimore Ravens?
Even in the preseason.
I understand the AFC North is a tough division. I get that. I do think the Bengals could become an issue. They do get the AFC East, which again I don't think is the toughest division in the world. They do have to play the NFC North, which I don't love. Fair, but I just.
But remember, there's a lot more games outside of the division now, based on the math too.
Correct. So Lamar Jackson, I just think is too good. Harbaugh is too good of a coach. So I'm going to go with the Ravens with my second selection.
No, it's a good selection, and it's hard to bet against a Ravens team that also does an excellent job making up for lost personnel. That's what impresses me the most about that organization. Because you look, boy, they lost this guy in the secondary, they lost this offensive lineman, and then they find a way to magically doll things up enough that you're not talking about it. So my second choice, I'm torn between two teams, one in each conference.
Oh, interesting.
Because I do think that there's some appetizing opportunities here. I'm going to go, and I'm going to stay in the AFC. And I'm going to continue the theme of the AFC West. I really like the Chargers again, John.
Wow.
I think Harbaugh and company are going to be able to build off what they did last season. I don't think that running game is going to go anywhere. Look, they brought in Najee Harris, and they drafted Hampton.
Oh, Hampton's going to get a bajillion carries this
year.
The
two of them, no matter what type of function each of them serve, I feel really good.
They already lost Rashawn Slater.
But you know what? I think they have good depth.
Trey Pipkins?
To
Are you
overcome
excited
that.
about Trey Pipkins?
Well, Joe Alto, they're going to also toy with moving around.
They'll move in the left tackle, yes.
Yeah. So the point is, if there's any team that could fill the slate by Slater, okay, it would be Joe Alt, okay? Pun intended from that standpoint. Wide receivers, you got a lot of playmakers. I actually like bringing back Keenan Allen. Not to say that he's going to be a huge playmaker, but a nice insurance policy who has chemistry with Justin Herbert. And
I agree.
The Chargers defense, John, made huge strides last season. I actually don't think it was talked enough about. Now, they have to stay healthy, of course, that group, but they did for the most part last season. I think there's continuity. There's familiarity.
Lost Joey Bosa.
They did, but Bosa was one of those guys that couldn't stay healthy.
Also true.
So
Khalil Mack a year older.
Losing sleep over that. I like some of the youth that they've infused. I mean, Tear Tart, for example, is an underrated guy who is a guy that's going to eat up a lot of space at nose tackle. They were really good in terms of helping limit the run. So I think the more and more you make sense of the roster and the fact that, once again, despite how challenging the division is, they're playing 11 games still outside of the AFC West. I like the Chargers as my second choice.
All right, I have to go with the defending Super Bowl champions. I was hoping you would
That was going to be the other team I was
hoping you did not pick them, because then I was going to have a really difficult choice for my next. I have two teams, and
Too bad, and I love
they were kind of going back and forth. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here. Just look at the roster, man. It's so good.
Yeah.
And look, I get their schedule is very tough, just like the Giants. All right, so maybe they'll win 11 games instead of 14. All right, fine. I'll live with 11-6, all right? Give me the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm with you. And Vic Fangio makes me feel confident that they lost a lot of firepower up front. Okay, let's not overlook that.
Dude, they have six new starters on defense this year, and they're very young on that side of the ball.
Correct. So you never know. But I think Fangio, who's got an excellent track record, I go back to my point about the Chiefs, makes me feel as if they'll be able to overcome and navigate some of those issues. So from that standpoint, I understand where you're going, and that's why I was weighing Chargers against Eagles. That was my thought process.
All right, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the NFC with you, okay? And I'm going to go with a team that I would argue, and probably the best example is, think about how many players on that roster were claimed through waivers. This is a very deep team. I'm a little bit worried about the health of the quarterback, but I'm going to go with the LA Rams.
Oh, that was going to be one of the tough ones for me to pick. The next one. Okay, I like that.
Devontae Adams now with Puka Nacua. They're excellent in terms of running the football. I think that offensive line, just like I was talking about the Chargers defense, well, the Rams offensive line has gone through some really big ebbs and flows over the last few years. And the Rams defense, they've drafted well. That's why they have been okay with parting ways with an Aaron Donald or a Jalen Ramsey. So that division is not as overwhelming as it once was. The Niners are banged up. Seattle's got now Sam Darnold, so you don't know what's going to happen with him with not having Kevin O'Connell as the guidance. And Arizona seems to be stuck in mud, where they're hanging around that 500 mark. So I think the pathway for the Rams to win the division and even compete for the number one seed is very feasible.
All right, so I'm now deciding between two NFC North teams. And I'm not going to pick the one I think most people would pick. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
They have been, again, a model of consistency. I think you look at their roster, they are very deep, and they don't have holes. Now, I'm not sure they have some of those star players some of these other teams have, but they're well coached. Jordan Love's a good quarterback. Josh Jacobs is an excellent running back. They got a billion wide receivers. Their offensive line is good. There's not a lot of holes on defense. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers here just because I would be shocked if they didn't finish with 10 wins just because of how deep their roster is all around. So I'm going to go with the Packers.
Matthew Golden, too.
Yep.
Nice draft pick for them, and they don't have a star receiver. He could very well emerge. You just hope Jordan Love stays healthy. I know he's dealing with, it's on his non-throwing hand, but, he was banged up last season. I know that from a fantasy perspective.
Knee?
We'll save that for a rainy day.
Right? The first half of
Remember,
the
he got
year?
hurt in the Eagles game.
Correct.
No, and then there was another issue that popped up. It may have even been a hand issue or something. But he was
banged up first half of the year. He wasn't as good. 100%.
So you just wonder, especially with that all of a sudden coming to the forefront early on. I'm going to stay in the NFC North, and I'm high on this division.
Me too.
I think this division has not dropped off. I mean, the Lions worry me a little bit because Ben Johnson's not calling plays, and as good as Dan Campbell's been,
and Aaron Glenn's not calling
correct.
plays.
So it's now they promoted from within essentially,
but you know
still,
how that goes.
It's very different. So I'm not going with the Lions.
Oh
no! See, that was a little bit of a preview.
I like that.
I am going with the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, they're on my list.
Okay. J.J. McCarthy is in very good hands, and he does not have to have an unbelievable season because he's got great weaponry around him.
I think, Lance, the Vikings might have the second best roster in the conference other than the Eagles.
I think you can make a very strong case, and the other reason why is also Brian Flores' presence and that defense, which also pulled a 180, much like the Chargers last season. As good as Sam Darnold was, there was not enough credit to what Flores did on the opposite side of the ball. And they've got Jonathan Allen. They've got Jonathan Grenard. They got Javon Hargrave. I mean, that's not a bad front.
Keep those guys healthy, though.
I did not, correct. And I didn't even talk about the secondary. So I like the Vikings from a defensive perspective as much as I like what they're operating with on offense. And I love, by the way, on a related note, the acquisition of Adam Thielen. With Jordan Addison suspended for the first 3 games, Thielen knows the offense, and Thielen is, to use the cliche, he is like a fine wine. I think he gets stronger and stronger with age, but because you're not asking him to get the explosive plays, you're asking him to run the intermediate routes, be an insurance policy. He's the perfect vet for J.J. McCarthy and that offense. Give me the Vikings. Now I'm making you think.
Do I get cute here?
Oh, please get cute.
And
Please.
try to use some strategy based on what you just said? Or do I... Yeah, I'm going to try to use some strategy. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. They're in what I still think is probably the worst division of football in the AFC South. Though I do think the Colts actually could have... I think they're pretty talented. We'll see what the Jaguars do with the new coaching staff. But I think the Texans have a pretty high floor. I think their defense is one of the best in the league. I think it's excellent. I think C.J. Stroud's a good quarterback. Their offensive line scares the living daylights out of me.
And Stroud took a step back last season.
I agree.
As a result.
But I think that defense gives me confidence, especially in that division, that the Texans are going to get the double-digit wins again. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans.
Interesting. See, that's a division that I could see some movement this year because there is no juggernaut. As good as Houston may appear on paper, there's a door for them to get through. And remember, Houston was a 10-7 team. I know the point is we want to get into the 10-win territory, but
No, look, Houston had a down year last year. No
if
question.
there is any division winner from last year that I could see take a step back, the Texans and the Lions would both be in the conversation.
I would put the Bucs in that conversation too, but the Bucs are on my list. But I think those are the 3 division winners that I would worry about too.
The Bucs is fair too. It's just, to me, they got the best quarterback in the division.
Yeah,
and that goes a long way. And Todd Bowles and his defense, but I'm worried that receiver core, they're dropping like flies before the season even starts.
I know.
So
they're deep though. They're deep.
No, they are deep, but it is concerning.
All right, you're up.
So, where do I go now that you took the Houston Texans? Do I stay in the AFC or do I go back to the NFC landscape? I'm going to go back to the AFC. And the team that I'm going to go with, even though there is concern about one facet of their squad, but I am enamored with their offense, and I think they can find a way to win the close games.
The Bungles!
The Cincinnati Bengals. There is too much, John. There's too much firepower on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, listen, we don't have a magic crystal ball, and injuries could pop up. But my goodness, if you keep Joe Burrow on the field with that group and the running backs, can they have trouble scoring 35 minimum points?
They might have the best offense.
So even if the defense is atrocious again, but hey, getting the Trey Hendrickson deal done goes a long way, because if they didn't have him, who knows what the projections would be. I still like that offensive firepower, so sign me up for the Bengals to at least flirt with 10 wins this season. Remember, they were a 9-8 team last year, as bad as their defense was. So I'm expecting the defense just has to move centimeters to get them that extra W this year.
All right, I'm going to go back to the NFC. I'm going Lions. I can't let them sit there any longer. The coordinator changes do scare me. We talked about them already.
Yep.
Changes on the offensive line. But, man, they're just really talented.
And
they have the quarterback. They have the toughness. Dan Campbell. Hutchinson's going to be back. I think Isaac Tesla could have a big year for them as a rookie. They just have a really good roster. So I can't let the Lions sit there any longer. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions.
Well, listen, track record matters, and Dan Campbell's done a heck of a job turning that franchise around, but he's limited in terms of he's not a play caller.
Yep.
So even if you want to say, well, he's going to be very aggressive, right, and go for it on fourth down, they still need to get in the position to allow him to be aggressive. And as good as that offense was, remember, and I know the defense was hit by injuries, but we saw the true colors of that unit too, and you just wonder if the offense takes a step back and the defense is not as powerful, does that mess with the dynamics of the team? I'm going to go with one of the teams we brought up a few moments ago, because I'm going with the math, okay? I think the division is weak, so I think that helps their cause to get to double-digit wins. I love their quarterback. I was very high on him coming out of the draft, and I'm happy that he now found an environment that bodes very well for him. And I think that as long as they can give him the freedom to do what he did in Liam Cohen's offense, and I like the fact that they promoted from within, I'll roll the dice with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being the best team in their division and giving them the best pathway to get to double-digit victories.
All right, I have two teams I still like for the win totals at the top of this, and I already have 6. So I'm going to pick my 5-win team here. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
Quarterback and the coach, Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. I think it raises the floor a lot. And again, it's a tough division, but when's the last time Pete Carroll had a bad football team? Like, at worst, he wins 8 games, right?
Sure.
So,
I mean, he didn't make the playoffs year 1 in Seattle.
Yeah.
But still, track record again.
Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers.
A lot to like on offense.
Good enough for me.
It's the defense that...
It stinks. The secondary...
Okay. Hey, don't beat around the bush.
I'm not sure I can name a starter in their defensive secondary off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
You'll recognize a few of the names. You will. You definitely... No, I don't know if you can name it now, but if you look at the list, there is one guy that is a pretty notable name.
Who you got?
Jeremy Chin.
Oh, they got Jeremy Chin. I forgot that they wound up with Jeremy
That
Chin.
is a recognizable
That's
name.
right.
Outside of that, I'm with you. And then what also scares the hell out of me is anybody not named Max Crosby up front.
Yep. Especially since they lost Christian Wilkins with the injury issues.
Yeah, and Tyree Wilson's a young guy, but he has yet to
done anything.
So
correct.
I'm nervous.
All right, I think that's fair, but I'm going to go with the Raiders as my 5-win team that has to step it up.
See, I have another team that I even told you before the show. You didn't take mine, so I'm very happy.
Interesting.
But now the fact that you took that team...
Now you can save them.
Yeah, I could save them. See, I was going to go maybe in that direction, but you now did me a courtesy as opposed to challenging me. So I thank you immensely from that standpoint.
I'm a very generous guy,
yes,
Lance. You're welcome.
It's the season of giving.
I'm very magnanimous.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. I'm going to go back to the NFC. And remember...
That's a big word, Pearson. They don't use big words up in Boston. I know, magnanimous. Look it up.
A big part of also the thinking when you talk about projections and playoffs is, remember, the turnover rate in the NFL is unlike any other professional sports league.
Correct.
You cannot pick all the teams that made the playoffs last year, okay? If you do that, you're going to be disappointed.
Correct.
I keep a list, and I could bring up my document. On average, we're talking about 4 to 5 teams minimum over the last 20 years.
It's usually closer to 6, to be honest with you.
But
yes.
you're safe with 4 to 5.
Yes.
So I kept that in mind also with my logic and my thinking. And just to review, I chose the Cincinnati Bengals, okay? They were on the outside as a team that did not make it. So I'm going to go with another team now in the other conference.
I like it.
That did not make it. And I know there's questions, but it's another feeling like Cincinnati. I like their offense.
Oh, you're picking the Cowboys.
I am picking the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow.
Well, you read me quite well on
I
this.
did. Well,
I mean, I build it up for you. So
I mean, you said
yeah.
really good offense, and I think Dallas's offense will be very good this year.
George Pickens now with C.D. Lamb.
I think he's going to have a monster year.
Last year, they didn't have a true number 2.
Interesting.
Dak with an offensive line that has questions. There's no doubt about it. But I think the running game will improve. And remember, they're going rock bottom, so it's not asking for much. Yeah, you're worried about Micah Parsons and, a new defensive scheme and this and that and a new head coach. But my feeling is, John, it's the same thing like the Bengals. The offense is good enough that even if there are mishaps and issues on the other side of the ball, they should remain competitive and be in the mix. So that's my logic for picking the Cowboys.
All right, my strategy throughout this whole thing is don't pick a team that I think can bottom out and be really bad. You know what team has never bottomed out and is really bad?
I know which team you're
the
going with.
Pittsburgh
That was going to be my next choice.
Baby.
Yeah.
And it was either them, and look, this is my last pick. It was either them or the Broncos. Those are the last 2 teams I had on my list. And the Steelers are just so consistent. I don't know how much Aaron Rodgers has left. He drives me nuts. But
it's Mike Tomlin.
It's Mike Tomlin.
Go ahead, just like Andy Reid. Go ahead and bet against Mike Tomlin. And Pete Carroll.
And Pete Carroll.
Correct. Those 3. Don't touch them.
Or Jim Harbaugh. To your point with the Chargers.
Yeah,
Isn't that your 8th pick?
Yeah, it's 7 teams, and then you have the team with 5 wins or less. So it's 8 teams total for each. So I'm going Pittsburgh Steelers because they never win fewer than 9 games, and I don't want a team that bottoms out. So that's where I'm going.
Well, that was going to be my safety valve in the event that I wanted to go in that direction. I'm nervous again about A, Aaron Rodgers holding up, and B, just the caliber of that division. I
get
mean,
it.
Cleveland is a tough out. Which is not necessarily...
We'll see about that.
I know, but Joe Flacco, though, if Flacco can hold up, I like their offense in his hands a lot more than any of the others, especially that young mix that they brought in with Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. So now, my pick now is the 5-win team, right? Or do I have extra flexibility, right?
No, I believe your last pick is your 5-win team.
I'm not necessarily
That's
keeping
correct.
track of the volume.
Can I guess? Can I guess which team you're picking?
Which team?
Bears.
No.
Oh,
that was the other I was thinking about.
Interesting.
It was basically the Raiders were 3rd if we work our way up. The Bears were right there. But I'm going with the division that we talked about earlier where I think the pathway...
Panthers?
No.
Oh.
Think about the other.
Saints?
No. Oh, you really have lost. Where I'm going.
What do you got?
I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that division has fluctuation, and here's my selling point on Jacksonville.
I had the wrong South.
Correct, you had the wrong South, yeah. Geography was a little bit off.
Yeah.
Liam Cohen has a really good track record with quarterbacks, okay? Whether he's the QB coach. Remember, he was with McVay and the Rams. Heck, he was at Kentucky in college and did a good job. I like the marriage of Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. I think this could be a real nice bounce-back emergent season.
It could be.
For Trevor. I think it's got written all over it from that perspective. Yeah, their defense was troubling last season, but I think that with a new voice, and if the offense takes pressure off of that side of the ball, Travis Hunter, I don't think they're going to run him into the ground. I think they're going to use him in a case-by-case basis on both sides, but they're going to be smart about it. And I think Trevor Lawrence has some nice weapons around him that Liam Cohen will structure the offense just like he did with Baker. And it wasn't as if Baker had, by the way, red carpet treatment. Last season, Chris Godwin, Evans was out of the lineup, tight ends, and Baker had a tremendous statistical season, right? So why can't I now project that with Trevor Lawrence, knowing that the Texans could take a step back. Tennessee is young with Cam Ward. Indianapolis. Quarterback. And Shane Steichen and his team is hovered around 500. And maybe he tries to be very aggressive because Jim Irsay's daughter now is taking over. And, she may want to go in a different direction. A lot of pressure on him. Liam Cohen could be one of those first-year coaches that has that wow factor in his favor. 4-13 last season. You heard it here at 1:05 p.m. Eastern on August 28th as the guy to the right of me chuckles, okay? watch out for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I called the Chargers last season, maybe not in the same boat, but Harbaugh, new coach. Jacksonville is my first-year coaching candidate team that is going to be knocking on the door and busting through that.
All right, Pearson, do me a favor. Lance is hosting, I believe, with me on, let's see, which day it is. No, you're actually with Madeline. So the second week of January, I'm going to make sure I'm hosting with Lance. And let's just make sure, Pearson, we have that Jacksonville Jaguar
I will wear the badge
thing
regardless.
ready to go. And at the end of the show, Pearson, do you want to pick your
I already
8
got
too?
them. You want me to go through?
You want to give
you
them
have
now?
8 teams?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So what we did last year, Pearson of the teams. That, and by
I
the way,
get the garbage heap.
There are some pretty good teams left,
I know.
actually.
No one picked the Broncos, which surprised
Yeah,
me. Or
no,
the Niners.
or the Commanders.
Or the
They
Commanders.
were in the NFC title game last year.
Well, but you know what? The other thing, Pearson, after you go, I want to compare how many teams we picked that didn't make the playoffs last year.
All my teams were in. So.
Okay, because the teams you just threw out that no one picked, other than San Francisco, Denver and Washington were in.
Correct.
So I'm accounting for some teams to.
Did you pick the Bucks?
Yes.
Okay, you did
the
pick-
Bucks were in.
The
I
Bucks.
picked- but remember, the Cowboys and the Bengals
Yep.
I picked.
Correct.
At least that were not in the mix. And Jacksonville I'm picking. They were not in the mix. So I'm staying within that logic. That's why I'm just curious how
All
that
right, Pearson,
plays out.
what do you got? Who do you got?
I got Broncos, Niners, Seahawks, Commanders, Bears, Falcons, Dolphins, and then Patriots.
Oh, I think that's pretty
Wow.
good. I like that group.
But he really went outside the box. I mean, you pretty much picked more than about 70% of those teams did not make the playoffs
the only
last year.
teams that are left. He can't pick the teams we're picking.
I thought, okay, I'm sorry.
no.
So I'm mistaken. I thought you were going to
Yeah,
pick
Toronto
from the
Argonauts.
whole. All right.
Best
See,
of the rest.
Okay, I misread that. So I was going to give him credit for really being bold. I'm sorry. I take that back. Pearson was not as bold as I thought he was. Okay.
Pearson
He
is a
jumped
bold
into the
person.
pool that was left. Okay, I
Yes,
misread.
correct.
Patriots
All right.
have the
Yeah.
easiest schedule. That's all I'm saying.
All right, let's get to the calls. 201
Because certainly that always plays out according to plan, Pearson.
4513
That strength
201
of schedule from last season, boy, so reliable. Take that to the bank.
939-4513. Real quick, Giants Foundation hosts a 5K Racing Kids Run presented by Quest Sunday, October 26th, 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. That proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. You get a T-shirt after the race. There's a DJ, Giants Legends, Giants.com/5K to register. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. I think we're going to apparently the fans have been calling for Pearson on social media. And I think the fact that he's now spoken on the show, I think we should double our listenership would be my feeling.
Yeah, from what, 2 to 3? Or 2 to 4, I should say, if I do the math right. Yeah.
Jeff in Rhode Island wanted to know where Pearson's been.
You got me for the next 2 weeks. So
Yes.
Well,
and you're also here
And,
half the
going
time
forward,
generally.
yes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm
where did he
Thursday.
go that-
Thursdays and Fridays is the only time I'm doing the show now.
Yes.
Gotcha. But his presence is still across the board.
Well, I mean,
He's
Pearson's-
omnipresent.
Pearson's big timing us now. He has quote unquote better things to do than slum it with us in here.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's not even arguing with
He's
it.
not denying it
No.
either.
All
Yeah.
right.
He's not a man of the people anymore.
No, he is no. He's throwing down a man. No, definitely not. Oh,
Yeah.
Only
He's taking the antisocial route.
only the Boston people. All right, let's go to Kevin in North Carolina. He will lead us off. Kevin, what's going on, pal?
Hey guys, how you guys doing today?
We're good. What do you got?
Hey, 2 quick questions. One question is, I keep reading that Theo Johnson has still not been practicing, and the Giants haven't disclosed that injury. You guys know what's going on with that, and any concerns for his availability to start the season?
I do not know what his injury is. Brian Dable has been very mum about that, and he's just said today that he is not practicing and he is getting better, and he left it at that. So until we see an injury report next Wednesday, when they have to disclose what the injury is, I'm not sure we're going to know what it is, Kevin. So hopefully he'll be good to go. I never got the impression that it was something super duper serious, but I think if it was, you would have seen him get placed on IR to start the year if they thought it would be multiple weeks. They haven't. So I think that gives you a sign that you would hope he'd be ready to go week 1. But
And the other thing that I would add is a transaction involving a tight end would be another thing to monitor, watch. Now, that could still
they
happen,
kept
of
4,
course.
though. They did keep 4.
True, but what I'm saying is if you feel that maybe it could be a multi-week injury of something, maybe you'd want to even add somebody to the practice squad or whatever it may be, something to keep in mind. The fact that that hasn't necessarily happened perhaps bodes well for him, but just to piggyback off of John's point, the exact wording that Dave's used, and it's a phrase that he's used pretty much all throughout training camp, the guys that are going to practice will be out there, and the guys that won't, but he wasn't revealing and going through the list. And remember, the NFL teams are not obligated to speak of injuries until early next week when injury reports have to come out, at least for the bulk of the teams.
Correct.
Cowboys and Eagles are in a little bit different boat because they play on Thursday. So they are not going to reveal the details of anything, but until we see some practice report of some sort, some injury report, or there's a move with a tight end, I would not read into anything that could be alarming, at least at this stage.
Yes. What else you got, Kevin?
Yeah, perfect. And then I also wanted to ask, with Tyler Nubin and Javon Holland, who do you think would be kind of, that strong safety / free safety? How do you think we'll kind of see those two on the field in terms of having those roles, or do you think we'll kind of get a mix of both with, one playing free, one playing strong?
Appreciate the call, Kevin. Good stuff. I believe they are going to be very interchangeable, where depending on the play, you can move either guy in either spot. I think they trust either guy in either spot. And I think that's important if you want to be able to disguise in the back end of the secondary, which I think Shane Bowen's going to try to do a lot this year. And to have two interchangeable safeties, I think makes that a possibility. When last year, I think with all the youth back there, you couldn't really do a lot of the fancy disguise stuff post-snap. So I think generally, Nubin is probably more apt to be around the line of scrimmage, and Holland's probably more apt to be deep. But I think you're going to see both guys in both spots all the time.
I think Holland's also comfortable being moved around based on what he did in Miami. But remember, the signature play in his career was the interception at MetLife Stadium against the Jets that he caught on a Hail Mary play and then returned it for a touchdown. So he's got the hands and he has the depth. And if you go back to even things that Holland had mentioned, because he was asked about the green helmet, and he said, listen, when I'm playing back, I want to see the field. I don't have the time to come up and communicate with the guys at the line of scrimmage. Not to say that he wouldn't be brought up, John, but to your point, I think when you connect those dots, it's highly likely that Nubin is much more around the line of scrimmage consistently than Holland, who I see as more of the deep center fielder threat.
Let's go to Mark in Miami. He's up next. Hey, Mark, what's going on, man?
I was pretty upset that McLaurin signed. I was hoping he'd be in the same situation as Parsons. I'm wondering if you think they might use Abdul Carter as a spy, because he's done that in the past and other teams have done that in the past with him.
You usually don't use a pass rusher as a spy. That's not common, but Abdul Carter is a special athlete, so I do think he could do it if you asked him to. My thought would be, as a switch-up, I would not be surprised if you saw that at times in the Commanders game, and especially given Jaden Daniels' ability to run.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would be his primary responsibility, and to take him out of the role of someone that you want getting upfield and getting after the quarterback in the pocket. So I think, Mark, when you see him lined up as a stand-up rusher in the middle of the line, he'll mostly come after the quarterback. But if at times you want to switch things up and you let him hover there, I could see that being an option.
And I also think it depends on the down and distance,
of course,
too. That's going to dictate whether or not they'd have the luxury to even utilize him in multiple roles, specifically a spy. And
I can see Okereke in that role, too, to be honest with you.
Without a doubt, given his athleticism. And that, to me, I think would be more of a comfort. Here's the other thing. As much versatility as Carter showed at Penn State, this is also going to be his first ever NFL regular season game. How much do you want to toy with him right out of the gates, regardless of the matchup? I think Shane Bowen needs to ask himself that. So that's the other thing to take into consideration. And I know you made the comment about you wanted Terry McLaurin and the contractual issue to play out. My philosophy in general, and I say this to all fans, is I think you want to go up against the team with all of the people at their disposal, because that only opens the door for excuses if certain big weaponry are not available. So that's just how I look at it for any NFL matchup, regardless of whether or not there's fandom involved.
I agree in that in theory, but I don't agree with that for the first game of a new season with a new quarterback and a lot of new moving parts. And honestly, I was thinking maybe that he would go in instead of McFadden to, he's got a ton of experience at inside linebacker, and, that he could be more of a spy from that place, and not talking about taking somebody off the front line in certain, obviously, we're talking situations that warranted for down and distance, but I just thought that he could be the fourth guy on the field in that with Karake, and that it would, because he's fast enough, unless you think I'm wrong,
No, Mark,
to keep up with Daniels.
No, Mark, I think that's a good question. I would say we did not see him play as an early down off-ball linebacker in training camp a ton.
Right.
So he hasn't really been in that role, and to Lance's point, it's his first regular season game. I don't think that's a role I would be comfortable putting him in, even though he did it in college, when he really hasn't practiced that in this defense over the course of the summer. So I think, again, maybe on third down when he's on the field, you want to switch it up instead of, rushing as a stand-up guy behind the tackles or whatever, and you want to drop him as a spy, maybe there. But I don't see that as like an early down full-time type of role.
Okay, I appreciate it.
No, thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Appreciate the call. Good stuff. All right, let's go right to Big Ed in Maryland. Big Ed, what's going on, man?
What's up, Big John and Big Lance? I'm back.
So Big Ed, what do you have? The Giants are like 15-2 this year? What do you got? You have them 15-2, 14-3?
17-0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Almost 17-0, but not quite. I feel like, put it this way, we scored over 30 points in each of our preseason games. We averaged that, okay? So going with that good, positive attitude going into this, we finally got something that should work, because I'm going to keep this I'm going to make this reminder right now. So 8 games out of last year, we only lost by 1 possession. We've lost the last couple of seasons because we didn't have a quarterback. Now we do. And with the complimentary defense and that third-round pick, fellas, we're looking at something really good. Now, please note, I'm about to tell you this, winning the first 4 games, these phone lines are going to really blow up big. So I got us winning the first 4. Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers.
All right, put the bold prediction in the document there, Pearson. By the way, if you folks want to call in with bold predictions tomorrow, I think tomorrow it's me and Datino. We'll happily take your bold predictions, and then early next week we'll take them too.
Okay. So on another note, first, man, I hope you guys are coming down for this first game. I did mention something to that effect.
Paul Datino will be down there. Pre and post happens back up here in New York, so I will not be there. Paul Datino will be there. Pearson, are you going to Washington State? Oh, Pearson's not going to be there either. Boy.
Dang. And Lance, you doing something else, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I will not be there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
not excited about seeing Paul Datino.
No, yeah. His energy just went skyrocketing towards the other
only Datino
direction.
Oh boy, that's a problem. All right.
It doesn't rock his boat as much.
Big Ed, appreciate the call, my friend.
Yeah.
Always good to hear from you, buddy. Thank you very much. Giants Little Podcast. Go check it out. We got a bunch of really good episodes up there right now. The podcast feed is technically called the Giants Podcast Network feed. Go check it out. Subscribe. Giants.com/podcast, Giants app, Giants YouTube channel. Just to Jory Epstein, who's a really good national NFL reporter for Yahoo Sports. She was here last week. We talk a little bit about the Giants. We also do a little bit of an NFL season preview. Albert Breer's coming up later in the week. Already recorded Kevin Burkhardt, who's calling the Giants-Commanders game in Week 1. That'll go up next week. Mark Malusis from The Fan will be going up at some point. Pearson's burned the midnight oil on all these things, doing a great job getting them up. And we have draft season up, too, so you guys can check that out. Our first 2 episodes this year, Bruce Feldman on the Freaks List, and then Drew Fabianich, who is the new executive director of the now Panini Senior Bowl. So 2 really good interviews up on draft season. You can find that on the main podcast feed. Also, draft season has its own feed as well. So go check those out. Again, Giants.com/podcast, Giants app, Giants YouTube channel, favorite podcast platform. Go there and subscribe. Wilson and Roxbury. Hello, Wilson.
Hey, my 2 buddies. Hey, listen, Johnny, Lance, every time I see you guys together, it's like I get a niche, man. I said, I got to call him.
It's like a rash.
Crazy because,
and it spreads like wildfire.
Chicken pox, mumps,
hey,
maybe.
Real quick, though, before I start, whatever's in that water in South Carolina where Big Ed is from, I don't know how. I need to get my hands on it because that is crazy.
Big Ed is an eternal optimist.
Without a doubt.
And we
Oh my
appreciate
God.
that.
Yeah, well,
I
yeah,
mean,
well, yeah,
it's all
like,
positive
I
with
think
him.
The complete 180 of me.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's
Absolutely.
why I guess, it's only fair for you to come on to balance things out.
That
Because,
is true.
I mean, remember, this is
You
the whole
see-
purpose
you
of the
see,
show, to
I-
be as balanced
I
as
bring
possible with the opposite ends of the
That's
spectrum.
right.
Yeah.
I bring balance to the show. I bring some, right. So
A phrase never uttered by anybody viewing. But go ahead, yes.
So basically, Wilson's like Anakin Skywalker, bringing balance to the Force instead of bringing balance to the program. I got you.
Let me tell you something real quick, though. This is mostly for Lance, but
Oh, I'm honored.
and Johnny,
Excellent.
you can chime in. But listen,
Nah, all you, Lance. You got
Lance,
this.
real quick before you said, the Indianapolis Colts, right, have the best roster in that division, hands down, right?
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, that's your opinion.
I think
not a
I
fact.
think the Texans certainly have the best defensive roster in the division. I don't think that's any doubt.
Sell me on the just out of curiosity. Why do you feel the Colts have the best roster? Just out of curiosity. What are you sold on with respect to Indy? Why do you think they have the best roster?
Listen, if Daniel plays the way that he plays to his strengths, and I don't want to get into the head coach and the Giants. That's word on the bridge. I'm not gonna do it. If this guy supposedly is a good head coach, he's got weapons all over. The offensive line, it's the best offensive line Daniel Jones had his whole career. He has to play within the offense. In that division, Lance, if the Colts are a 9-win team right now, if the ball bounces their way, they're either a 10 or 11-win team. I'm telling you that right now. Like you said, the Jaguars today, what is it, August 28th? I'm telling you that right now.
All right, bold prediction.
I
Put
mean,
it in
listen,
there.
it's not crazy for the Colts to be in the mix.
I actually like the Colts' offensive roster. I think their offensive roster is pretty good. I don't love their secondary on defense.
No,
but
neither do
I like their receivers. They got a solid offensive line, and Jonathan Taylor's really good.
And their pass rush, too, I think is a little bit suspect as well. I mean, Quiddy Pay's a nice player, and Buckner provides pressure underneath. I just don't see an overwhelming amount of depth on that team, which concerns me. And they've got playmakers around the quarterback, but some of these receivers have not been able to stay healthy, too. Like Downs was banged up last year. Alec Pierce is a hit-or-miss receiver. He's a deep guy, but it depends on the targets that you get him. And, then there's obviously Michael Pittman.
I feel like there's a personal challenge here. I think we have a little Colts versus
Jaguars.
versus Jaguars here. I like it.
Yeah.
But listen, I want. Well, listen, I think the Colts are winning the division, but Lance says, you picked the. Well, we'll see.
Hey, you're both going to be wrong. It's going to be the
that's-
Texans. I don't know why you guys are fighting about this.
wind up Tennessee with the division.
Yeah, well,
everybody
probably will.
wrong.
You're probably
Yeah.
right.
Well, I didn't know, but see, the reason why it seems you're so invested in the Colts is because of Daniel Jones' presence. Wilson, you just can't get away from him.
Wilson loves Daniel Jones.
So, he's not going to give up.
Listen, you know that. You know that I think Daniel had. Daniel, listen, Johnny, I just didn't want to give up on a guy that's 6'5", 235 that can make every throw and runs like Daniel. But forget about that. It's a new season. We got Russell Wilson, and I don't want to be negative anymore. But
Welcome to Colts Kickoff Live, by the way. Thank you. Yes.
All right, Lance, this is for you because every time
I thought the
tell you
previous
this,
one was for me.
you
Wow, I
tell
get
me
the
that I'm
double
great.
whammy today.
This is great.
Yes. What else do you have
Nothing to do with me.
to offer me? Yeah.
No, because for the past 2 seasons, I told you that the first game of the opener for the Giants, it was the most important game. And every time I tell you that, you tell me, Wilson, you're out of your mind.
Well, and I'm going to continue to disagree, but I'll hear you out again. Yeah.
Can I explain why?
Sure.
Can I tell you? All right. Forget about being the most important game of this season. I think this game is probably the most important game in the past 10 years, even more important than the playoff win. And I tell you why. You know what happened the past two season openers, right? We were last. It was a disgrace against Dallas and against
lopsided games.
Minnesota.
Sure.
It did not go well.
Yeah.
Well, and the worst part about it was that Kevin O'Connell said on his press conference, we were the better prepared team. He said it. I'm not making it up. He said it. So the reason why I tell you this is the most important game is because we cannot, under any circumstance, go to Washington, get embarrassed again, and then Giant fans like myself, on a Monday, I'm gonna turn my TV on to this show, and I have to hear, that we were competitive, we play hard, wouldn't quit. You know what I'm saying, Johnny? You know what I'm getting at, right?
Well, Wilson, I will say this in all seriousnness.
What?
I look.
Oh, serious.
No. I'm being very serious. I look
Okay.
at the first two games as a package deal, right? I never think you should overreact to what happens in week 1 of the NFL season, and I've been consistent about this. Weird things happen in week 1. Good teams lose, bad
Right.
teams win. Strange things happen. If the Giants
Mm-hmm.
lose week 1 to Washington, they rebound and win in Dallas in week 2, and you come home for your home opener at 1-1, you're in great shape.
Okay.
You're fine. You're in awesome shape. Now,
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
if we're talking 0-2 coming home, and you're 0-2 in the NFC East, that's a different conversation. But I do think
Right.
even if you come out and you have a dud in week 1, if you can come out and beat Dallas in week 2, I think that eliminates a lot of the stink off of what happened in week
Yeah.
1. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And this difference 0-2s and 0-2s. I give you that too. But the reason
There's a
what I
difference
say
between
that, Johnny, is
0-2s and 0-2s? Did he just say
I'm
that?
saying if you lose on a last minute field goal, okay, you live with it.
So you're talking about the
But
context in which you go 0-2 is what you're referring to.
It's
Yeah.
within the content, but it will make like the highway so much smoother if they win against Washington, even if they lose the 2 games. It will be such a positive feeling for Giant fans like myself that
the problem I have, Wilson, with your analysis is you're looking at it more from an emotional standpoint. You're saying the fan base and the mindset and feeling good, but I think what John was getting at and what I continue to campaign for is the NFL. It's cliche, but it's a week-to-week league. So even if you do have a great week 1 performance, you could say that's going to uplift everybody. If you come back week 2 and you struggle, what difference does it make in terms of how you performed in week 1? Case in point, Cincinnati, to me, is the poster child of your point. The Bengals were 0-3 last season. They started. They lost to the New England Patriots in week 1, 16-10. It was a dreadful performance. Now, since he didn't make the playoffs last year, but their offense got actually stronger and stronger, I would argue, as the season progressed. So if you judge them based on week 1 and you were down, to me, that would be what John is saying. It's an overreaction. It's hyperbole.
No, but Lance, listen, there's outliers. Like that loss, Cincinnati's losing against New England was an outlier. It was something that it happens probably 1 out of 20 times.
Yeah, but Wilson, in the end,
we've been struggling for a while now, and the past 2 season openers have been really bad and have set a tone for the whole season.
No, Wilson, you're right. Wilson, look. Wilson, the team cannot start 0-2 again. It cannot.
Yeah, I mean, no disputing that. You can't dig yourself in a hole.
Especially when you're coming home and you're staring at Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Taylor Swift in week number 3. Like that's a problem.
Yeah, huge problem.
Can I ask you something, Johnny?
Sure.
You brought that up.
Chris Jones is on that team too, by the way. He's also pretty good.
A tad.
What happened? I mean, hopefully not. Now, but let's say, what happens if that's the case, if we start 0-2? What do you think? I mean, you know what's going to happen.
What do you mean?
Right?
What
Everything.
happens?
Well, they're going to start calling for this kid to start right away, and
That'll happen.
There's going to be questions. There are going to be questions about Brian Dable. You know that.
Sure, but that doesn't mean those things are going to come to fruition, though.
I'm not doing it because I'm not going to.
Wilson, that might happen, but that's just noise. The building's going to prepare for Game 3 and try to go out there and beat the Chiefs. I mean, Paul Dottino won't be very nice to be around for a couple of weeks. I promise you that. But, I mean, other than that, the team's going to come home and they're going to try to win the home opener.
See, Wilson, you were very concerned about the talk and the entertainment value of football. I could tell. You bring this up also every season. We go through this, where you're worried about radio talk shows and newspaper headlines are going to be critical of the team. And you can't get overwhelmed by that either.
Lance, listen, I want to have fun this football season, you know. So
I'm not trying to take away the fun from you, but what I'm saying is you can't exhaust so much energy in worrying about what could happen and also just assigning the fact that because there's a lot of chatter in radio land and newspaper land that's the reason why the team or players are not playing well. Those are not necessarily coinciding with one another.
Before I go, I want to ask something.
Yeah.
Can you acknowledge me this, maybe? Is the home opener for the Giants more important than 27 other teams in the NFL. Would you agree with me on that?
The home opener or
no?
the season opener?
The season opener. I'm sorry, the season opener. What do you think, Johnny?
I mean,
For both you guys.
look, I will say this: it is a divisional game, so it automatically becomes more important than other teams that are not playing in divisional games. And Wilson, appreciate the call, but is it? Look, I will say this: what you don't want is the picture that Wilson painted, where you got people screaming for Jackson Dart very early in the year, way before the team wants to put him out there. You know, they've been very clear they want to be patient with him. And again, but that's outside noise. And I think Brian Dable, that's coaching staff in this building, has done a good job of, keeping that noise out of the building. Now, we take phone calls here, so we would have to deal with it. So I'd rather avoid that, please. But look, do I think it's critical the Giants don't start 0-2? Yes, I would consider that to be critical. But beyond that, I mean, I don't know what's the inner workings of all these other fan bases and how they're thinking about the first game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it's divisional games, but once again, you also play 11 games outside of the division.
Right.
And you can do actually well in your division, and it still doesn't necessarily guarantee that everything else is going to go according to plan
Hard
outside.
to do very poorly in your division, though, and still
no doubt about it.
Be in good shape.
No doubt about it. But, the bottom line is you could really spin this in a million different ways.
Correct.
I will say this. I brought up the Bengals again. The Bengals, Wilson, the last caller, phrased it, is the Giants' season opener more important than any other team? So if you look at Cincinnati last season, John, okay, they missed out on the playoffs by a game.
And if they win that game?
If they beat New England in a low-scoring affair,
correct.
Who knows? And I know I'm simplifying the math, and it's not that
you're
easy.
Right, but every win or loss counts the same in the standings.
So whether you're the Giants, whether you're
correct.
Tennessee, whether you're the Colts, I mean, does it really matter at the end of the day? The significance and importance is through the roof.
It's a
for all of these franchises.
There's only 17 games. Every game's hugely important.
Yeah.
I think Wilson's asking it more from an emotional point of view.
Correct. That's exactly how I interpret it. Yeah. And it's hard. I'm separating the emotion from the X's and O's.
Well, you're very good at doing that.
Well, I mean, that's just how I was born and bred, okay? It's maybe easier for some people than others, but I don't allow the emotion to get in the way of conversation and analysis.
Except, you do hold some grudges. You hold some grudges. You're a little cranky sometimes.
Well, but that doesn't necessarily. That has nothing to do with sports, though.
No,
grudges can be.
Sometimes some teams or players rub you the wrong way.
It's possible. I'm not going to necessarily dispute that or deny that.
I think it happens to all of us, though.
I think at the topic at hand, though,
yes.
I don't know if that baggage has anything to do as we dust out some skeletons in the closet or whatever we're trying to do here. But the point is, I think he's coming from a very emotional standpoint,
yes.
and putting the weight of the world on winning or losing the first game and what that could perhaps dictate and say about the rest of the season. And I just don't think there's enough of a correlation that every team that wins the first game has a great pathway and every team that loses the first game has a tougher pathway. I just don't think that's how the NFL functions.
And even 0-2, you can still, make a run. At 0-3, historically, it gets very, very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Yeah, the percentage points are not going to be in your favor.
I mean, you're going to have to go, at worst, 9-5 in your final 14 games. At worst. To have a chance of making the playoffs. You might have to go 10-4. And that becomes very difficult very quickly.
Well, and on the related note, not to belabor this point, I know
yes.
I keep using the Bengals.
And then we got to wrap.
But the reason why I use the Bengals, John, and I'm glad you brought up about the percentages and so forth. Last 3 seasons, I want to take you through how Cincinnati has started. And there's a reason why they've made it very difficult on themselves.
Well, by the way, Joe Burrow's been banged up at the start of a lot of these seasons, too, which is a big reason why.
Without a doubt. But, I mean, he's been on the field, so they
Not for all of them. Didn't he miss a couple games one of the years when he had the calf?
Well, I'm going to go real quickly. 0-2 in 2022. Burrow was in both of those games. He was the high passer. Okay. 2023.
That was the calf year, I think.
They were also 0-2. Burrow.
Oh, he did play both.
No, Burrow in the Cleveland game. Wait, he only threw for 82. Did he get hurt in that game? I'm looking it up quickly. No, Browning came in to throw one pass, so it was just a rough throwing game. I mean, he averaged, that's scary, 2.6 yards per pass.
The elbow with the elbow
he
one year and a calf
hurt
another.
In that.
I don't remember.
Well, I'm not saying that he was healthy, but the bottom line, he was on the field.
He played.
And then last season, 0-3. Okay, so they've been 0-2, 0-2, and 0-3 in each of the last 3 seasons, and they have walked a very, very fine line, to your point, where they got to go 9-5 in the last group of games. So it doesn't matter how electric you are, and a lot of people, including us, we feel good about the Bengals offense. But we know there's issues still on that roster that if they start off 0-2 and 0-3 again, the playoffs is going to dwindle in terms of the realisticness of them getting in. So, once again, I stand by the statement. You want to talk about the Giants, you want to talk about the Bengals, you want to talk about anybody in between, the conversation should not differ that much. The circumstances are the same.
Lance, good stuff, my friend.
Absolutely.
He's Lance Medow. I'm John Strong. Thanks for joining us on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. We'll have one more show tomorrow. That'll be me and Paul Dottino. We'll do some over-unders, maybe do some playoff predictions as well as we continue to head into Labor Day week. We will not have a show on Labor Day. We were going to have one, but Pearson demanded a day off, so we had so we had to skip the day. He's in charge now, so I mean that's just kind of how it goes.
Don't worry, you'll have podcasts all weekend.
Oh, we will. No, all jokes aside, Pearson's working his butt off getting all these huddles up. So we're gonna have a bunch over the weekend. We're gonna have our Writers Roundtable on Monday. A lot of stuff coming your way. So you'll have plenty of content, even though there's no Big Blue Kickoff Live on Monday. And then we'll be back 12:30 the rest of the way. Bob Papa will join me on Tuesday next week. That'll be fun. We're going to mix Jonathan Casillas back into the mix. Howard Cross will be in the mix. We'll have a pretty set schedule. Tuesdays is going to be a bit of a mess. It'll be some combination of Lance, myself, Sytac, Cross, depending on the day. And we'll see how it goes throughout the year. So thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff Live.